go on your phone and go to settings, click on battery, scroll down, and then next to all these different apps at the bottom, you'll see a thing that's a little clock icon, and click on the clock icon and then click on last 7 days. Some phones say last 4 days.
Yep.
So settings, battery, clock icon, last 7 days. And what you'll see is how much time you've spent on your phone. And it's horrific. Mm-hmm. It's a horrifying practice to try to go through.
Yes. I can concur.
Yeah. So I'm a person that prides myself on never being on their phone. Yep. And I had like 2 hours on Instagram. Yep. Like what? Mm-hmm. That's 2 hours I could have done like so many other things. Yep. What confidence is has nothing to do with winning or the leaderboard. What confidence is knowing that you giving your best effort is enough.
Hello, Ben.
Patrick.
Welcome back to your office.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. Today we're going to do something that we just named the 2-minute drill. So oftentimes, we've done, I think this is episode 30. Oftentimes people will ask questions. Cool. Yeah. They'll ask questions on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. And the questions aren't always enough, I think, to fill out an entire episode, but they're good questions nonetheless. So I've sort of collected a handful of questions from different people. And we thought we'd put a clock on you and you have to answer these questions within 2 minutes.
Love it. We literally named 2-minute drill less than 2 minutes ago.
Yes, that's how much planning goes into these
real
episodes.
Time.
Okay, so and most of these are not most of them. I'd say half of them are sort of training related, and half of them are more like life, regular chasing.
Let's hear with it.
Okay, so the first one, what do you think about the value or not value of heart rate monitoring during training?
Okay, in under 2 minutes.
In under 2 minutes. I'm just going to guess if you do it under 2 minutes, but go.
Okay. Value, but very, very limited value. I think it can be an eye-opener for people that might not be working as hard as they could be. For most people, it is a correlate to intensity. Heart rate is not intensity. For that reason, if you're about to give a public speech, your heart rate's going to go up. Doesn't mean you're getting fitter, right? It's right. Not the reason you're getting fitter. And having said that, it's hard to get, I'm trying to talk fast. It's hard to get fit without raising your heart rate.
Yep.
It's okay to kind of like, this is going to get in the weeds a little bit in this short amount of time, but I'm talking really fast, right? When you're trying to keep people from working hard. Like for Katrin, I try and keep her from working hard for some of our longer endurance things. And I want her to stay in zone 2, that type of stuff. But having said that, power is the shortcut to getting results. I don't care what results you're looking for. Power is the shortcut. Power is force times distance divided by time. How much work are you accomplishing and how little time to do that? It's a matter of power output, not your heart rate. I don't need to know your heart rate. I can measure your power and tell you if you're getting fitter or not.
But you can use it sort of as reins to hold people back.
Yeah.
If necessary. But
so kind of like two things, right? It could be for Katrin, who's going to work too hard. I can say, let's keep your heart rate below 150 or 145 in this zone 2 area. Or it could be somebody else like, I don't know if they're really putting out like the way that they look like they're suffering a lot more than I actually think that they're suffering. Yep. It could be an like someone's dying. Their heart rate's 159 beats a minute. It's like, hey, you know what? Let's try to push.
Gotcha.
Let's not get so dramatic about this.
Gotcha. That was within 2 minutes. Good job.
Wow.
And
good.
I even asked a follow-up question. So.
Good.
Okay, second question. What do you see as the difference between excellence and perfectionism?
Perfection is a state we're all searching for, but it's unattainable. There's no such thing as it. So we are all trying, people that are pursuing excellence are trying to draw a really detailed picture of what perfection is. And every day we're trying to get there, but we know we're not going to get there. It's impossible. It's Vince Lombardi's quote, which is, we are striving for perfection, knowing full well it's unattainable. But if we strive for perfection, we may harness excellence. Mm-hmm. Vince Lombardi, right? So that's the idea is I want every detail matters. I'm going to strive for every bit of this perfect state that I can possibly go for, but I'm fully accepting I'm never going to get there. And that's not what we're, if we not getting there is not a measure of failure. It's quite the opposite. What we're looking for is that excellence, and excellence is not a destination. It is every day. It is excellence to me is a verb. Mm-hmm. You are doing excellence. There isn't you're excellent, because what we're trying to do is once you take your foot off the gas pedal, you're no longer excellent.
Mm-hmm. Is there a degree of perfectionism that is, or perfectionism, or the process of chasing it is negative?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So because you're just going to be, it's unattainable. Like we have to recognize perfection. Nobody is perfect at anything. Rich Froning winning 4 CrossFit Games championships in a row, he would be the first one to tell you like his performances were far, far, far from perfect. Mm-hmm. You know, yet he's the greatest ever. And Michael Jordan was greatest ever, yet he took, I remember researching this, but I think he took 51 game winning shots and he missed 26 of them. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, so far from perfect, yet he's the greatest ever. Right. So we're never going to be perfect in anything we do. No relationship, no business, no athletic pursuit, no passion or hobby, no faith-based activity. Nothing you do in your life is going to be perfect. And certainly not the balance across all 5 of those spectrums. So what we're going to try and do is, what does perfection look like? And let's just try to keep getting there as close as we can, knowing full well we have to accept the fact we're never going to get it perfectly.
Cool. Okay. I have no idea if that was under 2 minutes.
Well, you're asking follow-up questions.
Yeah, it's really not fair. How do you tackle nutrition when the goal is to increase weight? We've talked about sort of decreasing it, but what about the sort of the inverse to that?
The most obvious example of that is eat more. I mean, it kind of goes without saying, but like calories in, calories out does matter for sure. And people that are eating a really clean diet, like I've touted on this, it's really important for performance and longevity and health and everything else. Most people, because it's such calorie, nutrient dense foods and not calorie dense, tend to lose weight. Yep. Now that's not advantageous for somebody that's trying to be, a NFL linebacker and they're trying to stay above, 225 pounds and they're struggling really hard for that. The bottom line is we have to eat more. That's number one. And most people are like, I'm eating so much. Well, if you count their calories, and this the first thing I do is like, give me what you've eaten.
Look at it.
Let's give me what you've eaten for the last, 2 days. And just 2 days is enough. I don't need more than that. And what you look at is usually they're not eating enough. I just walked through this with one of our members who's really lean. He's trying to get bigger. Good CrossFit build, but looked at it, he's not eating little. He was eating like 2,200 calories a day. Yep. Goal number one, let's get that to 2,800. The extra 600 calories, not hard to do. You can do that in, one extra shake or a little extra servings of every single meal. And then besides that, become the little hacks. Make sure you are doing pre and post workout nutrition well. And then the next hack is don't go to bed on an empty stomach. Get some like casein protein, the slow drip one, with some whole milk and maybe some starchy carbs in there as well.
Gotcha. Cool. How do you balance, or how would you approach balancing intensity and volume in your training?
I wouldn't.
Okay.
Intensity and volume are at odds.
Okay.
So particularly early in the season, this is kind of the way it would kind of roll for me is, in the beginning, it's going to be a higher volume and lower intensity. This is like general, like periodized programming for a endurance athlete or even a Olympic weightlifter, something like that. It's higher volume in the beginning, meaning reps and sets or miles or whatever it is, or time on the feet, pounding the pavement, build up the big aerobic base, build up the big strength base, whatever it is. And then as you get closer and closer to game day, the volume comes down as the intensity goes up. I think most people know that. Having said that, our sport's a little strange, right? Our sport is really high volume, particularly when you get to the games. Regionals, not. Open for sure, not. But when you get to the games, it is both intensity and volume. So we have to play this different dichotomy. So we look at all the different facets. So there's aerobic intensity and aerobic volume. What is the right metric for both of those to be tracking together? Those two for us are at odds. So as we start off with a big aerobic base early in the season, October, November, December, we are doing, I'm not gonna give away the trade secrets, but we're doing a lot of aerobic base building stuff. And as we go through that, that's gonna really pare down to we're only doing very little come game day, coming the weeks leading up to the games. But our intensity ramps up. In the beginning, don't even send me your times. I don't even need to know your times.
Okay.
At the end, I want to know what the times were and the splits for every 400 meters of your 5K. So the intensity gets ramped up a lot towards the end. We do the same thing for strength, both volume and intensity. Same thing for Metcon, both volume and intensity. Same thing for Metcon, just overall conditioning, volume and intensity.
I feel like that could have been more than 2 minutes, but
yeah, that's a hard one to keep below.
That
could be a whole thing,
question.
right?
Yeah.
It's hard for me not to geek out about that.
All right, maybe we'll geek out on that in a future episode. How do you suggest, and I know you've dealt with this a little bit, but how do you advise people who are dealing with injury and want to eventually obviously come back from injury?
The first thing I let people know is, so whether people are coming back from a vacation where, they were on their honeymoon, or it's an injury, or they just gave birth, or whatever it is, depending on the severity of the injury and how the amount of time off, I give people the framework to start, like give yourself, and don't talk in terms of time, because time is so different for everybody else.
Right.
So if you say like, it's going to take you 3 weeks. Well, does that mean if I come in once a week, it's still going to take me 3 weeks? Well, what if I come in every single day? Does it still take 3 weeks? I talk about it in terms of sessions. So in terms of if you're going to take a class, so let's talk about like a regular member. If they're coming back, give yourself 10 classes. And that's where I always start. It's like 10 classes to get yourself back up to speed. Mm-hmm. And don't worry about your times. Don't worry about your loads. Don't worry about your previous PRs or anything else until we're 10 classes in.
Okay.
Now, if that takes you 10 days to get there, cool. Like in 2 weeks, we're talking about what's the right kind of blend of intensity and volume that you should be playing with right now. But before that 10 classes, 10 episodes, it lets, like, you're just going to be like beating yourself up if you're worried about comparing yourself to where you were pre-incident.
Mm-hmm. So would you just have them come in and like
get it done?
Just getting in is the job you're.
What I need you to do is we're going to learn to play guitar. Mm-hmm. I need you to take 10 lessons.
Gotcha.
You're going to learn to windsurf. Take 10 lessons. Because some people like learn to ski or learn to play guitar and they do 10 lessons, but they do it over 6 months.
Yep.
Well, it's going to take you 6 months, like before we can even talk about anything.
Yep.
Other people get fully immersed and they'll do that in 2 weeks. It's okay. Okay, now in 2 weeks, we can start talking about what the right blend is. But for a 2-minute answer, it's 10 sessions.
Love it. What is one thing you are working on improving in your life right now?
I always have a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I'm proud of that I've put for a quarterly goal, actually it was a yearly goal, but I wanted to accomplish it in the first 90 days of 2018, was to start having family dinners.
Okay.
For whatever weird reason, we have a modern family for sure. We have kids on all different schedules doing all sorts of different stuff, and split family
from like 5 to 18 or something.
Yeah. Our oldest kid is 17. Our youngest is 3.
Yeah.
The biggest thing we're working on is sitting down and having dinner together. And what we used to try to do was like, we'll wait for the perfect moment for it to happen, and we'll go in the dining room. We'll do it in the dining room. We'll cook. We just like, no, let's make this like in terms of like starting a business, it's like the MVP. It's the minimal viable product.
It's like there's food and there's people.
That's for real, right? And if that's what we're doing, is like, and you can be eating that, and you can be eating that, and we're just gonna sit at the kitchen table, not the dining room table. And if there's only 3 people home, like the 3 people sit down together.
Gotcha.
And what we've done is we didn't wait for it to be this magical moment where we're all together. It's whoever's home, we sit down together. And the goal was to try and do that like from once a week, which used to be our goal, to do it 2 or 3. And I was like, let's just start doing it every night. Like no one eats dinner alone. This is when we're eating. And if Maya doesn't get home because she's got practice until 8 o'clock, like, okay, Maya can eat by herself, or we'll sit down with her while she eats by herself, and we'll all eat together at our time. So it's one of the things I've been really, it's happened.
Cool.
Like really happened. Like since January 2nd, we haven't had a dinner where we're not sitting together, which is really cool. It's funny when this is going to be more than 2 minutes. We're over. We can
probably slow down the talking speed as well. If you
I'm cranking, right?
It's like I just gave you 3 cups of coffee.
The team, like when I was coaching teams, trying to go to the CrossFit games, one of the things I knew was the value of communal eating.
Yep.
It's one of the things that's inherent in our culture, is you got together with a small group in your society, and you would sit by the campfire and you eat together. So I did that with my teams, yet how many families aren't doing that now? It's awesome. So that's a thing I'm proud of, actually, that I'm working on.
Really, really cool. Slightly related, possibly, I think, because I know some of the answer, is what do you say to people who claim that they don't have enough time for family dinners or starting a business or training, getting to the gym, etc.?
Okay, this is going to be a really tactical one.
Yeah.
It's something I've talked about recently as well, is go on your phone and go to settings, click on battery, scroll down, and then next to all these different apps at the bottom, you'll see a thing that's a little clock icon, and click on the clock icon, and then click on last 7 days. Some phones say last 4 days.
Yep.
So settings, battery, clock icon, last 7 days. And what you'll see is how much time you've spent on your phone. And it's horrific. Mm-hmm. It's a horrifying practice to try to go through.
Yes. I can concur.
Yeah. So I'm a person that prides myself on never being on their phone.
Yep.
And I had like 2 hours on Instagram.
Yep.
Like what?
Mm-hmm.
That's 2 hours I could have done like so many other things. Yep. And then you take that to the millennials and like the people like that are spending, I've just recently, 3 people, I'm not going to name them, but 3 people that had over 8 hours on a single app. Like that's a full work day. Yeah. People are like, I don't have enough time. You could get literally another work day of your life if you didn't do Snapchat or if you didn't go on YouTube on your phone or if you didn't do Instagram. There is no such thing as I don't have enough time. It's what you're making the choices to do.
Yep.
So the tactical approach is figure out where your time is being lost, and then you decide if it's something that's important to you, or if you'd rather spend it doing that.
Yeah. A couple notes. One, the instructions you gave, I think, are just specific to iPhones.
That's an iPhone thing.
Yeah. So
are there people that don't have iPhones?
I've heard of them. Yeah. And the other thing is you did post that on Instagram. So if you wanted to go back and you wanted to read those instructions, just go to Ben's Instagram and they're there.
Yes.
But I did. My follow up to that was I saw that Heather posted something as well.
Yeah.
With like you guys doing some kind of
Bergeron
challenge, because it wouldn't be
right.
It wouldn't be worth doing if you weren't going to, I don't know, compete in some way about it. But so talk to me about just how you guys came about, like what is it you're doing and how are you kind of tackling it?
I found out about this, I think through somebody else's podcast I was listening to or something. And I looked up and I was obviously horrified. Yeah. So I came home and I was like, guys, everyone right now, grab your phones, and took everyone together and we're all in the living room. Everyone pulls up their phone. I'm like, do this, go to battery, go to settings, and let's share. And of course, Heather was like, oh my God, we need to, Jonah, you have 8 hours on YouTube. Like that's, I think it was maybe even, it was 8 hours on YouTube. So basically what we did is every Sunday night, and we did it last Sunday, first weekend, we did the same thing again. And we all shared and we saw who spent the least amount of time on their top 3 apps and things like Waze or
exactly.
FaceTime or Spotify, music, those don't count. The podcasting count. Yeah. Like if you're learning, if it's background music,
like the stuff
if you're
that's
talking to
your
people,
attention.
It's social media, things that are stealing your attention.
Yeah.
Snapchat, Instagram, Safari, things like that, like the things, the time suckers.
Yeah. So you posted it probably a week ago now. So I wanted to, just as an experiment, to see how it changed, if just the knowledge of it did anything over the course of a week. Like I didn't try to do anything differently. Yeah. I was just like, okay, let me see if just like my subconscious, and it didn't do anything.
Me either.
Yeah. So this
I was conscious of it.
Yeah. So this week I'm actually thinking about it and seeing if that.
I was traveling though. So I think traveling is that's a little bit different because you're like sitting in an airport or something like that.
But it is interesting that, they're designed to steal your attention. So they're very good at it. And so, which is to say you have to work at not letting.
It's one of the things that people don't realize is like these people are in the business of keeping you on their app. Like that's how they measure their success is
engagement.
Engagement. So like how many people are on their thing doing their thing? And they've figured out the dopamine hormonal response of human beings and how to get them hooked on their app. Okay. They're creating the most addictive things they possibly can. Yep. There's a reason that YouTube has that screen. And then look at all these other things that are bright, shiny objects that you could look at next. And when the video's done, what happens? Boom, here comes the next one. It's like, Instagram is no different. Instagram, they figured out what are the hormonal triggers that will keep you hooked on this thing. So they're really good at it.
Yeah. Yeah, we could talk about this forever. Last question is my question. I'm super interested in your answer. If you were given sort of the ability to design and implement the curriculum for an entire high school senior class, right? Like, okay, Ben, you've got the seniors.
Yeah.
Whatever classes, whatever curriculum you want to give them, what would that year look like, or parts of it?
Gosh, that's awesome. Okay, probably taking like if there's 5 classes, 5, 6 people take like math, so 4 or 5. Okay, so one would have to do with like real life finances. Like no one talks about this stuff. Like, what do taxes mean? What does your mortgage mean? What is, financing and interest rates, and what are the personal implications? How do you save, and what's an IRA, and
compounding interest,
like all of that stuff. Like it's probably one of the most important things you could have as an adult is like, how do I, what is refinancing your mortgage? Like, what's a home equity loan? Like, how do you do a cash out refi? How do you like all these types of things that nobody talks about? Like, what is the stock market? What is bonds? And what what is asset diversification? And it's like, that would probably be number one. That would be one. I'm not saying number one. Another would be like health. Like and I'm not talking like boys have a penis and girls have a vagina. Not that. Hopefully they had that before they were seniors. I have a 3 and 5-year-olds. That's what we talk about. Okay, I like that you found that so funny.
Yes.
But something like what we talk about, like eat meat, vegetables, nuts, seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. Intake levels that support exercise, not body fat, do constantly very functional movements performed at relatively high intensity. And that is the best prescription known to man to push off chronic disease. Chronic disease, what's that? Well, that's 70% of what kills, that likelihood of what you're going to die from prematurely. It's everything from cancers, and just talk about all of that stuff in real world stuff. So people are going to the world
connected to things they actually understand.
Yeah, and they're not leaving it up to medication. Which is what everybody thinks. Is like, okay, I just live my life. There's genetics, and this is definitely not going to be a 2-minute answer, right?
No,
there's genetics.
We've long since blown through that.
There's genetics, and like whatever I get is what I get. It's like that's not the case at all. So set people up for success against that. The third one would be some sort of like personal development one. So like, how do you figure out how to spend your time wisely? So how to, like, what are the important things in your life? What are the urgent things? And how do you pursue things that matter in your life and avoid the other stuff? Everything from time management to study for success habits to self-improvements, powerful habits, routines, and all of that type of stuff. We have 3 there?
That was 3, yeah.
Okay, I'm way over the 2-minute thing. This is an unfair question. Another one would probably be an elective relative to their passion. People should be doing things that they enjoy and that they love. So if you love cars, like let's get you in front of some experts that can help you get phenomenal at building, designing, or fixing cars, right? And similar, like you love aero engineering. Let's get you in like an internship with Boeing or whatever it is, or that's a self-study program, something that you love. So like start to set the path towards mastery. And then the next one, the all-encompassing one, would be taking all of the normal stuff that you see in high school and putting it in one class. So here's some history, here is some math, here is some English or writing, here is some technology, something like that.
It's kind of a mashup.
If I had more time with that, I would love to dive into that question. It's probably something I'm going to think about in the shower, because that's a really cool question.
All right. Awesome. That was a failed attempt at a 2-minute drill, but we will
first time doing it.
Yeah. We'll do it again, and we'll do it better next time.
Some teams do a 4-minute offense.
Sure.